Hello, my dear friends to Salted Movies. Today I will tell you about a drama movie called Lolita. Professor Humbert is driving his car down a country road. His car is looping. Humbert's face is in blood. In the back seat, a bloody gun and a hairpin in his hands. This stiletto belongs to the girl he fell in love with like a fool, because of which his whole life went wrong. The roots of this crazy love come from his youth. When he was 14 years old, Humbert fell in love with a girl, but she died, leaving an unhealed wound in his soul. Many years later, when Humbert arrived in New England, he found a cure for his youthful suffering. The professor settled in the house of widow Charlotte Geiss for two reasons. The house where he was going to live burned down, and Charlotte had an adorable daughter, Lolita, or just Lo. Humbert was speechless when he saw Lolita. He was about to refuse Charlotte's offer to live with her, but then he noticed a young girl under the spray of a watering machine. The half-forgotten, youthful love stirred again in his soul. Humbert took notes in his notebook about Lolita and her mother. He wrote frankly, hiding nothing. He was not very attracted to Charlotte, and often she irritated him with her screaming and arguments with her daughter, but little Lo delighted him. The girl felt it, and with all her strength, she warmed Humbert's fiery feeling. But he didn't realize that for her it was just a game. The professor watched Lolita brush her teeth and get up in the middle of the night to eat something sweet. He watched her play in the yard and try to spend an extra minute with her. At the same time, he didn't notice that Charlotte had fallen for him. Lo reported this to Humbert when she interrogated him to persuade Charlotte to take them to the lake. During this trip, Charlotte told Humbert that Lolita would soon leave for summer camp, and from there, she would move to a boarding house for girls. This news upset Humbert, but Lolita's departure left him with pleasant memories. Noticing how he saw her off with his gaze, the girl ran away from his bedroom, jumped on him, and kissed him passionately. As soon as Lolita and her mother left, Humbert buried himself in the clothes in the girl's bedroom. It was there that Charlotte's maid found him. She handed him a letter from Charlotte in which she asked Humbert to leave the house because she was desperately in love with him, or he could stay if he was willing to answer her feelings. Humbert stayed. He and Charlotte soon married. He was now a model husband, but despite the stamp in his passport and the ring on his finger, he and every avoided intimacy with Charlotte. For this, he experimented with sleeping pills, but he managed to make his wife incapacitated for as much as 4 hours. However, she still woke up when he went to bed and collected from him the marital debt and penalty from above. Tired of paying the marital debts, Humbert goes to the doctor to ask for sleeping pills, which will knock even the elephant down for at least 7 hours. Returning home, the professor finds his wife in tears. She opened the drawer of his desk, where he kept his notes about Lolita and Charlotte, and read them. She realized how vile a creature had let into her house. Charlotte doesn't want to see him anymore. She writes a letter to Lolita while Humbert tries to calm her down. He walks away for a couple of minutes to pour scotch for both of them when the phone rings. An unfamiliar voice informs Humbert that his wife has died. Humbert does not believe it. He goes to Charlotte, but she is not there. She ran out of the house to throw letters in the mailbox and was hit by a car in the middle of the street. The driver didn't have time to react when Charlotte suddenly jumped out onto the roadway. Humbert is devastated. He takes Charlotte's letters and burns them in the fireplace. Then he goes to the camp to pick up Lolita. On the way, he booked a room for two at the hotel to catch her. He lies to Lolita, saying her mom is sick. When Humbert brings Lolita to the hotel, the girl meets the famous playwright, Claire Quilty. This elderly man shows an unhealthy interest in the cheerful Lolita. Humbert informs that the two-bedroom is occupied, and he will have to spend the night with Lolita in the same bed. The professor does not mind. He and Lolita have dinner, then return to the room, and Humbert leaves the girl alone so she can clean herself up before bed. He himself goes out to the terrace, where he meets and speaks with Quilty, who is quite drunk and makes dirty hints about Humbert's relationship with Lolita. Somehow, he feels what the professor wants to do with the girl. Humbert insists that Lolita is his daughter, but Quilty doesn't believe it. When Humbert returns to the room, Lolita is already asleep. In the morning, Lo takes the initiative in her own hands. The girl makes it clear that this is not the first time for her. On the way home, Lolita wants to call her mom, and Humbert realizes that he must tell her the truth about her mother's death. Little Lolita cried all night when she learned that her mother was dead, but she had no one left except Professor Humbert, so she quickly forgave him for hiding Charlotte's death from her. Humbert took Lolita from her hometown. The two traveled across the country, stayed at local motels, and enjoyed their time together. Lolita behaves like a typical child. Humbert takes advantage of a chance that not everyone gets. However, such a dilemma comes to an end. Humbert decides to set up Lolita for school, and at first, everything goes well, but then it seems to him that the girl is hiding something from him. She asks for more money for pocket money and manipulates him to let her play in a school play, written by the same Quilty whom both met at the hotel. Humbert gets informed that Lolita has missed several classes. He asks her about it, and the girl comes up with a convincing lie, which is confirmed by her school friend. Humbert believes that Lolita wants to escape from him. That's why she saves her pocket money. Humbert wants her to show him the money she hid. They get in a heated argument and Professor hits her, after which Lolita leaves. The professor searches for her in the pouring rain for a long time and finally finds her in a cafe. The girl talks to someone on the phone, and he takes her home. Lolita says that she wants to leave, but this time the route she will choose herself. They're going on a trip across the country again. Humbert notices that someone is watching them, a stranger who is not even trying to hide. At a gas station, he sees Lolita talking to some man, but when he asks her about it, the girl replies that a stranger was just asking for directions. They stay at another hotel, and Humbert goes for products. Returning, he realizes that Lolita had gone somewhere. He loses his mind with jealousy and tries to find out from her who she is so passionate about. But in response, little Lolita only laughs. She realizes that the professor is completely in her power. After some time, Lolita falls ill and must be taken to the hospital. Humbert is sent home. The next day, he is told that his daughter is feeling better. She was taken supposedly by uncle. Humbert got furious. He runs to the hospital and beats up the doctor, trying to find out who they gave his girl to. However, noticing the police, he calms down and leaves, but he does not want to give up so easily. He drives all over the hotel where they were staying, looks for entries in the visitor books, and notes one person with special handwriting who's signed with different names. Humbert understands that it was Quilty who took Lolita away. Finally, he realizes that Lolita is gone from his life irrevocably. Humbert returns to his old job, and 3 years later receives a letter from Lolita. Lolita says she is married and expecting a child. She asks her daddy to send her and her husband a few $100s so they can at least pay off their debts. At the end, she signs with her husband's name. Humbert decides to go to Lolita. He practices shooting with his pistol. The professor intends to get rid of the man who stole his girl. Lolita settled on the outskirts in a poor neighborhood. The door for him opens an adult girl with a round belly. However, Humbert sees in her the Lolita with whom he fell in love several years ago. He is still crazy about her. She invites her ex-lover into the house. She says her husband thinks Humbert is her father. She also says that she has always loved only Quilty. However, he kicked her out when Lolita did not want to act in his adult films with minors. Humbert gives her $4,000 and says she'll keep it anyway, but he needs to know if he has any chance of getting Lolita back. Lolita replies that there is no chance and that he is not normal. When she was talking about Quilty, she accidentally mentioned where he lived. After saying goodbye, Humbert leaves. While driving away from her house, for a moment, he sees the former Lolita and the now pregnant girl. Humbert finds Quilty's house, goes upstairs, and meets the owner in a single robe. Quilty barely realizes what is happening because he is full of drugs. Humbert drags him to his senses, threatening him with a gun, as he wants Quilty to realize why he is going to be killed. When clarity returns to him, he tries to take Humbert's gun away, but fails. Quilty then tries to run, but the professor manages to shoot him several times. Quilty climbs into his bed, huddled with fear, and gets finished by Humbert. All covered in blood, Humbert leaves in his car. He is stopped by the police on the way, but he doesn't seem to notice anyone around. All his thoughts turn to Lolita. Humbert is imprisoned, where he dies of a heart attack. Lolita dies a few weeks later during childbirth. And that's all for today.